need to buy yourself a gun. What? A gun? Oh, what? Like a handgun for personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? Or if your government tries to throw you in a dam. What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like you Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jackbooted cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension fund. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
It is Tuesday. It is live. It is primer time. My name is Michael.
I'm Nick, and Michael, it's good to be back.
Nick, I'm glad to have you back. You're back in time for some timely words in the theme song of this show.
Oh yeah, certainly. And I'll tell you what, I took a week-long trip into the nether regions where most gun owners fear to tread.
Tell me about that.
So was able to take a trip and actually visited two states that are very, very hard for firearms owners to live in. I went to New York and I went to Massachusetts, and darned if I couldn't have a palatable sense of a state trooper following me everywhere I went, and yeah, there was cruise control the whole way.
Did you feel extra safe with the extra attention that you had?
No, actually, absolutely not. But I will tell you that as soon as I crossed the state line from Pennsylvania into New York, was promptly greeted at the rest stop by a U.S. Marshals large RV that was acting as a command post vehicle during the search for the two escaped prisoners out of Plattsburgh area, the Dannemora Correctional Facility. So
did they scan you?
No, they didn't. It was interesting. We just popped into the rest stop for a couple seconds, but the presence was palpable.
They scanned you. They checked your vehicle.
Well, I'm sure they did. The funny thing is that the license plate scanners, those are going off. So I'm sure as soon as they saw Texas plates, they were, where's this guy's concealed carry permit? Well, we're going to stop him. But no, fortunately, I didn't.
That's right.
I didn't have any of that happen.
Did you carry?
No, actually, I did not. For the sheer fact that everything I own is illegal in the state of New York.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. There's really not anything that you have other than a couple of rifles that you could possibly shoot in New York, and then of course they're not even registered.
Exactly, and that's the point.
But that puts you in with like 95% of the people in New York who failed to comply with the Safe Act and register their automatic or semi-automatic rifle.
Yeah, certainly, and then
exactly.
Coming back, like I said, I drove through Massachusetts and then down into Connecticut. But while I was in Massachusetts, I was actually just around the corner from the Savage Firearms facility in Westfield, Massachusetts. Went out there and took the obligatory selfie in front of the Savage Arms sign, and you'd be happy to know that I left the duck lips out of that one.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Did you happen to go by the Colt garage sale?
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because they did not have the banner out of the on the Blue Onion Dome with the little Colt up top that said "Everything must go." They actually did not have that. That the Colt facility is still there. It is right off of the side of, I want to say it's Interstate 80. I think it's Interstate 91 going south, and then. Like I said, the Smith & Wesson factory is there in Westfield, and then the original Springfield Armory is just in the next town over, Springfield, Massachusetts, and that's now a site that's run by the National Park Service. So, a little bit of interesting side notes is that northeast corner of the nation has quite a bit of our firearms history from some major manufacturers, and I got the feeling like it's no big deal out there. People just don't care. And the Savage Arms facility, I saw people carrying pails going in and going out. You got a sense that this is a really blue collar workforce, and people generally looked happy to have a job and generally looked happy to be able to be working with firearms.
With the cultural farms, did you happen to see, like, in Texas, we have what they call the 30-06 sign, and it's a sign that's prescribed by law to certain standards that say no firearms allowed. Are there any signs like that you encountered?
No,
I
think that's totally unnecessary, because everybody in the state knows that they can't have firearms. There was an individual.
Yes, they have
I was going to say there was an individual who commented to me that they had sold a Glock 22 prior to arriving in Massachusetts, and then saw the error of their ways and wanted to purchase one, but was no longer able to do it because the capacity of the magazine was greater than what is allowable in the state.
And Glock makes a state compliant version with a magazine that.
Yeah,
I think they even make a 7-round New York magazine now.
Oh, yeah, they may. Like I said, I was kind of dismayed to say that, like I said, there's a large portion of our American firearms manufacturing history just in those two cities between Springfield and Westfield, and there's just Colts going out of business. It seems that a lot of these manufacturers they're kind of set in their ways about keeping the history of being in that location. But as you can see with what happened with some of the other folks that have decided to pull up stakes and move to other states that are, more friendly in terms of, not litigating laws that prevent an entire industry from functioning. I don't understand how those guys stay in business up there.
Well, we've seen several manufacturers leave that area. I mean, not necessarily in that direct neighborhood, but in that general 200-mile area. Beretta has left and is now in Tennessee.
Right.
Colt has already left part of that facility and is now in, I think somewhere just southwest of Dallas, I think.
Yeah,
we're seeing a lot of divestment, and this is the firearms industry is mirroring what's going on in the rest of the world. Because as they say, they're rioting in the streets. It's getting real close with what's going on in Greece right now. The president said it is an item of concern.
Yeah, he certainly said it's an item of concern, but it's not something that they're going to be worried about. You know what I mean? So nothing to see here.
Well,
let's move along.
That's right. Now let's focus on some gun control, because that will cure everything.
Yeah.
We've seen in the wake of the incident in Charleston, lots of calls for gun control. Again, a large media push once again for gun control.
Yeah, and like I believe it was Representative Jackie Spear out of California, who seized on the moment and is not willing to let a tragedy go to waste. She said, "Yeah, you genuinely have to strike while the iron is hot, and if we have an opportunity to get rid of a symbol, we're going to do that." So that's speaking in regards to the Rebel War Banner, or is what some people call the Confederate battle flag. That's just one small, yeah, that's one small facet of the whole operation, and I can
When
tell you,
knees jerk, when knees jerk, we need to capture that energy.
yeah, yeah. So the funny thing is that I don't have Facebook, but I have seen people's Facebook feeds, and it looks like the South is going to war with the Skittles factory.
I heard that. Yeah. Now listen. In regards to these, the shutdown of these companies and the continuing financial chaos in the entire world, and soon to be very, very close to home, I firmly believe. Right now is the perfect time for you, if you are not an owner of a firearm, to go out and get one.
Oh, certainly. Prices have stabilized in terms of ammunition, and not only that, the used market. I'm starting to see a lot more people trying to offload their panic buys from the last scare. So it's interesting. I think now you're right. Now
And
is the
those
time.
prices on those panic buy AR-15s are still far too high. If you are a brand new buyer and you have to have an AR-15, right now there are several sub $500 AR-15s, and if you don't mind polymer, there is a sub $400 AR-15 out there. All it takes is a few clicks on the internet, and you will find them from any of the several retailers out there.
Exactly.
There is no reason to pay $850 for somebody's used AR-15. There's no reason to pay $700 for somebody's used AR-15.
Exactly.
I personally don't believe there's any reason to pay $650 for anybody's used AR-15.
No,
$600.
There's no need for it.
Pushing.
Yeah, you can build one yourself, and you could still come in under that mark, and you can make it yours, and you can make it with a lot less abuse than what's out there available.
Now, part of the pricing in this used market that we're seeing is people trying to get their money back on their panic buys of the last few years. And part of this is in response to the gun control pushes that are out there, have been ongoing for several years, and people don't want to have a firearm registered.
Oh, exactly. And
to be honest with you, to buy that gun face to face costs you a little extra.
Yeah. Well, I think
that's just really a truth of the matter.
I think that with a little bit of research, most folks can go out there and do very well for themselves between the $500-600 range, and away with something that's, like you said, not abused, not somebody else's mistake, and you're not paying that overhead of somebody trying to get their money back on a panic buy.
Right, and that goes the same for the semi-automatic pistols. Because Colt is in bankruptcy, does not jack the price up 30%.
Oh no, but if you look at their law enforcement models, they're well over $2,200 anyhow. So just because it has a pony on the side, folks, doesn't mean that it functions any better than one that does not.
Right.
So.
Hey, we have a question in chat, and they wanted to understand the virtues of the polymer lower for the AR-15.
Well, you want the long answer or the short answer?
Well, we've got an hour to fill. So.
Yeah, I don't know that we could fill an hour with that, but when you take a look at the polymer lower versus either the cast or the forged aluminum or the billet aluminum lowers, you're looking at stability. Most of the polymers are injection molded, so they're going to stand up to a lot of stress. Some of them I've seen crush tests perform on them where the polymer is driven over with a vehicle and it doesn't buckle. Realistically, what I'm looking at in terms of whether it's to purchase a polymer or to purchase a billet or a forged aluminum lower, is what's it cost. For me, that's what it comes down to. And the other mitigating factor is, do I believe that it will stand up to the high temperatures and the gas pressures of what's going to be incurred during firing. And personally, my opinion is to always go with the aluminum, whether forged or billet. I don't want to put polymer to the test and have it fail on me. Not to say that aluminum doesn't fail either. However, I would say that aluminum probably has a lesser likelihood to do so.
I think this is a wider issue than just that. When you're looking at polymer lowers, a lot of the time you're finding these as a strip receiver or maybe a complete lower that you would build your own rifle on. And while I agree with you that it may not be able to handle such temperatures and pressures created by large rounds, say like frankly I don't trust like spec 5.56 in a polymer lower. I've seen many pictures of them destroyed and blown up and cracked in several places that look like it would hurt your hands.
Right, and that's the overpressurization right there. That's a polymer not being able to stand up to that.
I wouldn't consider that. I'd almost have to extend it to 223. I mean, there's plenty of 223 ammunition out there, but if you're going to do that, I'd almost rather have something that was ready to accept both. But in other calibers, the polymer lower is actually really kind of interesting. Now, let's say a pistol caliber. If you were to take a magazine block that's readily available and for several different styles, build a 9mm AR-15 that uses a polymer lower that would be well within the tolerances and probably a very, very reliable weapon, just as a Glock would be.
Well, and then that's the thing to think about too is, you're talking about the lower, but realistically what it comes down to is you got a separate lower and upper receiver that in concert have to be able to withstand the stress. So whether you purchase the lower in a polymer configuration and you have the upper in a aluminum configuration, those two pieces are going to be able to handle different levels of pressure. So, mix and match, I wouldn't say that I'm comfortable doing that. Not to say that it can't be done. But then again, like I said, do you want to go ahead and run fully mil-spec ammo, whether 62 grain or 55 grain? Who knows? Like you said, there's been images of people that have, uppers that have failed. And when you take a look at some of the kabooms,
and I'm not necessarily a fan of polymer uppers. When I'm talking about, I'm referring strictly to the lower. I would personally stay away from the lower in the 223 and 5.56, but I feel comfortable with it in something smaller, like maybe a 9mm or a 22 long rifle. I think is perfectly
certainly, and I think that if you stay in that, I think if you stay in that 22 long rifle caliber, you're going to be okay. I think that there's significant difference between the 5.56 and the pressure generated with that versus the 22, and I think the polymer is more than capable of handling the 22. And 9mm
is fairly low pressure, as well as 45 ACP. So those are two very common calibers that you could build an AR-15. That magazines are available, parts are available, and Palmetto State Armory actually has complete uppers available for them.
Right. Well, one of the things that I just keep coming back to, Michael, is pressure takes the path of least resistance. And if you've seen any of the many kaboom photos out there where people try and, fire either the 5.56 through the 223 Remington barrel, or they try to mess up and they chamber the 300 blackout and try to fire that in the 5.56 barrel, that pressure is going to go wherever it can the easiest. And most of the failures that I have seen have torn apart the bolt carrier group and have basically shit out down the bottom of the magazine well, destroyed the magazines. So, you take a risk. And with plastic, whether it's injection molded or ABS or whatever, that's still very susceptible to high temperatures. And, those kabooms generate high pressures and high temperatures, and I personally wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
I'm in full agreement with you on the rifle calibers. I would feel comfortable with a polymer frame lower for a 22 or a pistol caliber, such as 9mm or 45. Or I don't think I'd do it in 40 caliber just because I don't like 40 caliber. But the argument you're making, kind of totally goes against, the reliability of Glock right there. Glock within its pressure range has operated admirably, except for the 40 calibers.
Exactly.
Over 25 years.
Well, and that brings up an interesting point. You and I talked a couple days ago, and you were telling me about the Glock conversion for their 40 caliber to go to a 9mm.
Yeah, and it's actually not by Glock. It's by an aftermarket company called Lone Wolf, and it replaces some parts in the 40 caliber, and you use the standard 9mm magazine, and you've now turned a 40 caliber Glock into a 9mm, which in the Glock world, I think the 9mm is superior to the 40 caliber. I think all over the world it's superior.
And that's interesting. For folks that live in jurisdictions where you have to register a firearm, you basically created a new weapon, have you not?
I don't believe so, because you haven't done anything to the frame that would alter it from its original manufacture, so to speak. All the parts that you would replace are not. You don't have to drill any holes, or you don't have to widen anything up or smooth anything out. These are all just drop-in replacement parts that you could replace in the same caliber if you wanted to.
Right, but when it's not necessarily when you take a look at any time you've had that firearm registered in its original configuration by serial number, they'll be able to tell that should be of a certain caliber. Correct?
Absolutely. Now, let's discuss this registration, because you and I have had different experiences with registration. The only time I've ever had to have any sort of registration is when I purchased a firearm brand new from the store and filled out yellow 4473.
Right. So I've had the opposite experience of having to register every single firearm I own because I lived on a federal installation overseas. So I'll tell you from that standpoint of it, the FBI does your background check to determine whether or not you're, the firearm you're intending to own and register, they know exactly what it is and what it should be, and that's, like I said, is also verified by serial number.
And that serial number is tied to all sorts of items about the firearm. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, and like I said,
so any sort of alteration to the firearm is
basically creating a new firearm, and that from the federal aspect, that's that slippery slope gray area that if a overzealous ATF agent wanted to go ahead and spot check you if you happen to be an FFL and you made a modification, you've basically created a new firearm. And if you don't have an FFL, you're opening yourself up to some legal problems.
I don't think that can be completely accurate here in the States right now, because there's many let's say 22 slide kits that you could place on a myriad of weapons. I mean, there's one for a Glock, there's many for 1911s. They have them for CZs. They have them for Smith and Wessons. There's a lot of companies that have an upper replacement kit. So you have a 22 upper and your original slide. So I don't believe that counts as two firearms, because in the end, the only part of the firearm is the frame or the lower receiver.
Right, and from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, that may change. As far as the ATF is concerned,
I don't believe that's the United States, because it's only the lower receiver or the frame that's the gun.
Well, exactly. But like I said, I've had the experience where I've had to register a spare barrel as a firearm, just the barrel itself, and that was with the ATF. So
that tube, you had to register a tube.
I had to register a rifled barrel that did not have an action attached to it.
You had to register a grooved tube.
That's it. And
That's insane.
and not only that, the ATF knows that with that serial number comes a 30-06 barrel. And that, my friend, is a weapon.
So they know that the rifle has. Let's discuss. We don't give out too much, but you're saying this rifle is in one caliber, but you've got a spare barrel for that rifle, and that makes two rifles.
Exactly. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we've talked about modular firearm systems in the past, and this happens to be a modular firearm system from a German rifle company called Blaser. It's a wonderful system. It's very safe, mainly because you can actually detach the trigger group, which includes the magazine, and you can render the weapon inoperable by removing the trigger group. So the other side of that is that within the same bolt face grouping, you can go from 308 to 30-06 to 8mm Mauser by changing barrels without having to change the bolt face. And that's
okay. So now, if you were to buy this rifle brand new in the United States, and you have the rifle which has the numbers on the receiver and the extra barrels, you're only buying one rifle, but you have two rifles because you have imported this. Is this correct?
that is correct. So within the
That
United
is insanity. I'm sorry, that's insanity.
Exactly. So Blaser USA actually operates out of San Antonio. They're actually co-located with the import group that also handles Mauser imports, the modern Mauser rifles. So you can actually pick these up in the States. You're gonna spend a little bit of money. When I bought it back in 2009, less than 6 months after the model was actually released, I paid $4,000 due to the exchange rate in Germany. I think if you were to purchase it here in the States, you would probably get a price quote from the folks in San Antonio somewhere near $6,000 to $7,000. And Blaser's made some really nice rifles in the past, pretty innovative, such as the R93, which was the predecessor of the R8, and also their over/under shotguns, rifle combinations. Those are also highly sought after. So a lot of those German manufacturers.
Everybody sees me pull action on that Blaser really likes it, and then wants to buy one and says, "Holy cow!"
Yeah, well, like I said, if you're gonna spend money, and get a firearm that's going to last 6 generations, that's my vote. When I pass this down to my son will pass it down to his son, and his son will pass it down to his son, and his son will pass it down to his son, and that rifle is probably going to outlast 6 generations.
It's a very nice rifle, and I think it's actually not appreciated by many for what it truly is, because a lot of people just don't shoot like that, but you do, and you've got a really nice item right there.
Well, and the funny thing is that's a rifle that's perfect for hunting, but even just for sport shooting, not many people just take the 30-06 out to go sport shooting, but you think about it, what are all those national matches shot with over at Camp Perry in Ohio? They're shot with the M1 Garand, which uses the 30-06.
That's true.
So you have an opportunity to have.
Are you seeing anything? You're somebody who keeps track of the CMP website. Is that correct?
Yeah, I keep up on them from time to time.
Are you seeing anything on there?
Well,
right now that's interesting.
Their production that they have for sale, you're not going to get a whole lot of other than anything. Like I said, the price is really about $900 for them to get an M1 to your door. The benefit about the CMP, which we've gone over in the past, is that all you have to do is be on file with them and be a member of a firearms organization like a gun club, and you can go ahead and get that straight to your door. You won't have to go to an FFL.
That's pretty nice. Now, there's really not a whole lot of those straight to your door CMP or Curio and Relic deals out there anymore, is there?
No. They definitely don't do that.
You seen anything in the last couple of days that kind of struck your fancy?
Well, actually, I've seen some stories in the news. It's our favorite gun control organization aside from Bloomberg. It's the Brady Institute to Prevent Gun Violence. They've actually lost a federal lawsuit, and we don't hear about the Brady group getting told no every now and again. So I wanted to bring that up.
Well, let's talk about this or that.
So basically, in the wake of 2012 shootings, I think that was the Sandy Hook, right?
Yeah, late 2012, early 2013. People
Right.
refer to the 2013 rush.
Right. So the Brady Center went ahead and filed a lawsuit against a online ammo dealer called Lucky Gunner, and they said that that they were operating irresponsibly as a clearinghouse for ammunition without having to verify the ability of a purchaser to legally own ammunition. And a federal judge issued an order last week that dismissed the group's suit and said that Lucky Gunner was not legally responsible for the court costs, which are they're up there. They're pretty significant. And Lucky Gunner has said that they are going to make sure that their funds are going to be recouped. And they're actually on their website. They're soliciting ideas for how to actually distribute that money to different pro-gun and pro-Second Amendment organizations.
What they should do with that money is buy everybody a box of 9mm and a book of 22.
If they could find it, they're going to have to go back.
That would. They sell quite a bit, so I'm sure they've got no problem getting their hands on some. But I mean, their fortunes rest solely on the consumer, and once again, we've seen in the last few days in the wake of Charleston, and on the heels of this court decision, Senators Toomey and Manchin have reinstituted their common sense bullshit again.
Yeah, and which is interesting when you take a look at Senator Joe Manchin out of West Virginia. He's a Democrat senator in a very very blue collar state. Like I said, out here in Virginia, we have referred to the War of Northern Aggression as the Civil War, and those 13 or 14 counties, which is now West Virginia, as the ones that the North stole from the original Virginia. So, the people out there in Virginia, hardworking Appalachian folk, and he has to tread a very, very thin line when he goes up with the gun control talk.
Well, and I think that he plays both sides of the fence, and this is something I've had several discussions with several friends of mine in the recent weeks, that the people in the South and the people who've worked hard, and I would almost consider West Virginia in the South just because they're traditionally, well, they were in the Confederacy, they've still got the attitude. They're not necessarily as metropolitanized as a lot of cities are, and that's not to say that that all of the South is non-metropolitan, but it's not the places that are focused on in the mainstream media. Right. Therefore, it's Hicksville. It's where all the people missing teeth and the connoisseurs of toothpicks live.
Well, and for anybody that knows, there were quite a few Civil War battles fought, in and around those areas. It's funny because growing up out west, we had the distinction of having the westernmost battle fought during the Civil War was fought in Arizona. So in parts of southern Arizona, you'll see the Rebel War banner proudly displayed, and you'll see towns like Douglas and Bisbee and they'll have their truck stops named Rebel Mart and things like that. So it's kind of interesting to see how far that influence expands out west.
Right. So they're taking this and, aside from telling people what they can and can't say and trying to hide history, I think it's more of a marginalization of a certain type of person, and we happen to fit into this group. Where people who have, your belief in whatever your conviction is, you hold it strong. You believe in the way that this country should be run according to the Constitution, because, well, that's what you've paid into. You have an appreciation for your rights, and you really kind of have a moral code that you follow. And we're seeing in the last couple of weeks that this is all falling apart, and the people who believe that way are the group that now is fair game for all sorts of shits and giggles.
Yeah, Michael, just give me 1 second. I have to adjust the phone here. When we get to talking about this thing, it really, it starts to get my goat. We have a push to ban symbols now. Not just what it means or what it's determined to mean. This totally smells of the whole let's ban the black rifle because it's evil. The way I look at it is there are symbols all across the world that have been banned, and for what? What does it actually accomplish? You've got the pink triangles from the Nazi era that they made homosexuals wear. Well, now that's seen as a source of pride. And speaking of June, it was Pride Month, which somewhere somehow someone came up with that idea.
I gotta interrupt you right now. As an American, I can just only breathe a sigh of relief that Gay Marriage Day did not happen to coincide with the 4th of July, because that whatever day that was, that I'm sure is a day that will live in history and blah, 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 that will become like Gay Day Off. It will be like a holiday.
Well, it's funny because being a federal employee, at some point before this was pushed into the last, I would say, 2 presidential cycles, where June was the homosexual, lesbian, gay, trans, bi, intersex, whatever other acronym they're going to throw into this. I think queer goes in there too. June actually should have been probably more closer related to the abolition of slavery in the United States, having been the month that the Emancipation Proclamation was thrown out there. So, I feel bad for my brothers in of color, because Black Lives Matter. And why do you only get 28 days in February to have Black History Month when the homosexual crowd gets 30? I don't know. Sounds kind of screwed to me.
Yeah, Juneteenth wasn't really like pushed this year.
Exactly.
There wasn't much media focus on Juneteenth this year. But this is an interesting segue into back into the Charleston issue. I really think that the push to use this for gun control, while it's currently in an effort right now, I think it will fail again, because there's several reasons why I think it failed. But first and foremost on it was just on the heels of that, in Detroit and in Philadelphia, which are 2 cities that have fairly strict gun control. And of course in Chicago there was a good deal of gun control. But in those 3 cities, but especially in Detroit and in Philadelphia, there were 2 shootings that actually tripled the number in just those 2 shootings. And then there were the normal, whatever the number was in Chicago over the weekend. They got absolutely no play.
No. It gets no play at all. But I'll tell you what, I saw an interesting infographic. Part of my job, I do research, and I'm frequently in contact with other analysts. And we went over an interesting infographic that said the result of right wing associated gun violence deaths far outweigh those connected with terrorist organizations. And I literally
this is the
saw
thing that
that and
says,
had to spit my drink out.
and this is the study that said that since 9/11, that's how it has been.
Exactly. And it's
Okay,
interesting to
so
say
like,
that.
so like expand that study by like one more day, and then what do you get?
Well, it's
Like
not only that.
those numbers become extremely skewed.
Well, not only that, but when you look at the metrics with which the author of that piece decided to use, when he cited terrorist attacks, he specifically said that he was only counting something as a terrorist attack if it happened to deal with Al Qaeda. So a legacy terrorist organization, which is
Well, if that doesn't make any, that totally makes sense because Al Qaeda is the only government sanctioned terrorist organization that we can do.
yeah,
I mean, tell Al Qaeda and its subgroup, ISIS, ISIL, whatever we're calling it, Boko Haram. What's the other one? El Shabaab.
why
These are
you got to
all
be all
like,
Africa centric, man? Why aren't you giving any love to our brothers in Latin America called the Sendero Luminoso or Shining Path? Or what about for our Filipino friends, the Abu Sayyaf group or the Moro Islamic Liberation Front?
it is scary how you can rattle off the names of all these commies and jihadists all over the world just like that. That's really kind of creepy.
Yeah, well, the only reason I know the Moro Islamic Liberation Front is because the acronym spells MILF, and who doesn't like MILFs?
That's true. That's true.
I wish we had a
All right.
rimshot drum beat there. Dun.
Yeah, we need to invest in some equipment or something.
If you know any sponsors out there that want to get on PrimerTime, we can use some audio sound system stuff.
Yeah, and some ammunition.
Yeah. So I think
You got
I think the bigger point of the matter is that we live under a constitution that specifically outlines that we were all endowed by our creator with inalienable rights, not rights that were given to us by a government. Governments are instituted among men to ensure that those rights persist. And I'm no legal scholar, but that's Thomas Jefferson, and I'm going to say that guy is a reliable source when it comes to quoting the Constitution.
Oh yeah, he's kind of intimately involved with it.
Yeah.
Now, Thomas Jefferson's writings today would be considered inappropriate. Is that correct?
Well, not only would they be considered inappropriate, I'm actually kind of wondering why there hasn't been Black Lives Matter spray painted on Monticello, because if you don't remember, or for those who don't know, he was a slaveholder, and not only was he a slaveholder, he fathered children with one of his slaves.
He was a proponent of the culture.
He was. He was an oppressionist, as we would say.
And I guess now there's a worldwide push to remove monuments of slavery. So when we start knocking down pyramids, I guess we're going to have another show on that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I bring up Thomas Jefferson for a reason, because he was actually a very large proponent or a very big proponent of the Second Amendment and the individual's responsibility to protect himself with firearms. So there is historical precedent in the founding of the nation that people were implored during the founding of the nation to arm themselves. Michael, I lose you there.
I can't agree with you much more on Thomas Jefferson. I mean, he's somebody that really doesn't get any kind of mention anymore.
No, he doesn't.
Our country is now focused on civil rights leaders, and as if the civil rights struggle is the most important topic today. Now, with the issue of the gay marriage, I could care less if they can get married or whatever, but if they can get married now, I'd sure like for them to shut the hell up about it.
Well, and I think that this is the point. There are those of us who have religious backgrounds or moral upbringings that tell us, by doctrine or by faith, that is inconsistent with those views or religious holdings. I think what has gone on in the last 2 days sets a very dangerous precedent in terms of we have three branches of our government, which were designed, 239 years ago. We have we have a judiciary that has overstepped its bounds because I firmly believe that over a period of time, this country would have seen the popular decision among the people to go ahead and allow that. But what I've seen is a activist court or members of an activist court have erased every single gain that the proponents of that movement have strived for, and what they were willing and trying to do was change public perception to get that done as a mandate of the people, and they've made it a court decision. So I think that this is a hollow victory if you are genuinely for marriage equality. I think is the term now. I think if that was your point, I think that you've honestly lost. I think because at a point where you have to have a court basically legislate from the bench and say that which was not granted in some states now must be granted in all. I don't think that validates your argument. I think, much like there was the challenge on the Second Amendment back in 2009, which actually went to the full Supreme Court, and the Second Amendment was affirmed as a legal right of all Americans to own and bear firearms. So, I think that there's a little difference, but I think that the average bear doesn't know and doesn't care, which is even more upsetting to me.
Well, there's a plethora of reasons for why they don't care. I mean, we've got the best entertainment, we've got the cheapest food. Our circuses have the best bread. This may be coming to a head. We may be paying for our attitude.
But is it lackadaisical or is it? I would even say it's more. There's just a total apathy.
It hasn't been vigilant. It hasn't been vigilant, and apathy. Yeah. Lackadaisical because there are some people that vote and just kind of vote because it's the thing to do that weekend or that Tuesday.
Well, speaking of, we're getting ready to celebrate our nation's founding and the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July, which for those of you who do know, the founding father said that the birth of the nation should be the 2nd of July. What are we really going to celebrate? Are we celebrating hot dogs? Are we celebrating, family barbecues? Are we celebrating the fireworks that go on in the evening with the radio simulcast that burns down White Mountain if you're in Tucson?
We're celebrating 3 days away from the slave mine. That's what we're doing.
Why you got to bring up Greece, man? Why you got to do that?
It's an area of concern.
Yeah,
we are keeping.
We know it's there. We know it's there.
We know. Go back to your. What is it? What's the new one? American Ninja Warrior.
Oh,
I saw a commercial. I think it's called American Ninja Warrior, and it looks to be at least twice as exciting as American Gladiators.
Well, it's got to be a little bit better than the CNN coverage of the Gay Pride Parade with the ISIS flag that had the Arabic script removed and replaced with dildos and butt plugs. I don't know if you can say that, but
I believe you just did.
But somebody will send me a message and tell me that I can't say that. But
in all honesty, I personally have mistaken CNN for a large grouping of dildos many times.
Well, it must have been MSNBC that was the butt plugs.
Yeah, yeah.
How did I figure out that we were talking about Rachel Maddow?
Speaking with Ronan Farrow has taken a look at the new American gun owner, and that's on the Today Show website. And everybody, that's pretty eye-opening. It's more propaganda. It's more fear porn packed into a well into a snarky attitude from what people who are very, very scared of guns would think is a representative of a younger voice. And I found the whole episode to be really rather scary, but I think it's going to get some traction. So if you like to check it out, it's out. It's probably
it's on
on
there. It's on there.
YouTube. Fine. I would just search Ronan Farrow guns, and it would
When you
probably come.
when you take a look at it, it says 1 in 3 Americans are firearms owners, and I would say that is woefully understated as a percentage. So again, you've got a very biased organization putting out a piece that is more opinion than fact, and there's no shame in terms of how they present that information. So you take it with a grain of salt. Consider the source, and look at your own facts to determine what you believe.
I just can't wait for to see the new and expanded American Ninja Warriors.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think American Gladiators back in the day, when they were actually able to use the Nerf cannons, I think that would have
those were like tennis ball cannons or something. They weren't Nerf cannons.
Well, they fired.
That would have been actually kind of cool, because we would have figured out a way to make it shoot flaming tennis balls.
Oh, let me for anybody that's got a Pack 75 howitzer, get yourself a bottle of grease. Go ahead and lube up a tennis ball and put that in there and fire it off. That's more fun than you should be able to have in an afternoon in a motor pool.
Yeah, that sounds like a whole lot of taxpayer dollars going downhill.
We just like to call that good training.
Training. I love
Army training.
Since you gave a proper designation, we can find room for that in the budget.
That's right. Well, Michael, I think we need to go ahead and hit some 4 facts of firearm safety.
Well, I would agree with you. First and foremost, every firearm is loaded until you physically and visually inspect that it is not loaded. Rule number 2, be mindful of the muzzle. Keep that thing pointed in a safe direction at all times. Rule number 3 is know what your target is, know what is beyond your target. And rule number 4 is keep the booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon in the safe direction. Or in the intended direction. Because, well, self-defense situation is not necessarily safe.
Yeah.
So,
no
intended direction.
There you go. So, I wanted to bring up, it's starting to be the summer. I've gotten a nice sunburn the last couple of days, so I believe that the sun is warm and hot now after we've had the longest day of the year. Folks are going to be venturing out into the national parks. Wanted to go ahead and talk about that for a second.
All right. I know we've got some avid national park enthusiasts in our audience, and it appears to be you've got some information on carrying a concealed weapon in some of these areas.
Right, and the National Park Service, which administers a lot of the national parks actually all the national parks across the country, has changed their laws within the last couple of years. And as of 2010, the laws governing possession of firearms inside a national park have changed to allow people with the ability to possess firearms within a national park boundary, provided that they comply with federal, state, and local laws. So if you have a national park like, say, the Adirondacks in New York, you're not going to do that. If you're in New Jersey, you're not going to do that. However, if you are in Virginia and you're riding the Appalachian Trail on your 2 feet, you are legal to do that, because in Virginia, open carry is legal. So, that's another means for you to be able to go out in a national park and feel safe, because there are critters. So that's something that some folks may not have been aware of, but it's good to know that the laws have changed to allow that in jurisdictions where firearms ownership is already legal.
It's nice to be able to carry your protection in a situation like that.
Yeah, definitely, especially where I'm out at. Some black bears have been spotted lately, and
God, he's so racist.
Hey, black bears' lives matter.
I am calling you Al Sharpton.
Yes, yes. Bring on Mr. Gastric Lap Band Surgery.
You know,
He was almost more intimidating when he was the rotund, velour leisure suit wearing type of reverend.
yeah, now he's just really just annoying, is what he is. You
Yeah,
know, when he had some weight to throw around, you know, you almost kind of had a feeling that this guy would like press you up against the wall. But you know,
yeah,
now honestly, the good Reverend looked like he got the HIV.
he does, and not only that,
I find that with a lot of the people that get the lap band surgery, like they, you know, especially like if they were really big, and they get it,
which he
and man,
was.
they get it, and but they become really tall and really skinny. Or I shouldn't say that. If they were tall and fat, they just tall and skinny doesn't look good.
Well, not only that, you know, as a man with an abnormally large neck to begin with, I would fear lap band surgery because I just don't want that creepy neck thing that he's got going on. It looks like he's got like a couple of tendons and then like a bunch of loose skin dropping.
And you know, like, and the lap band is the nice and easy one. I mean, there's the gastric bypass where they remove like 90% of your colon. It's like they remove like 24 feet or something like that. 22
Yeah,
feet
and I
of
think
your
they
gut.
actually go you a step further and they can do this stomach stapling, which cuts
Well,
down.
but at least the stomach staple. You know, if you had to, you go in there and remove staples. This one, they cut that thing out and chuck it in the trash. You know, you're not getting that back.
Yeah, well, in his defense, he probably didn't need it.
Yeah, well, I don't find Reverend Al Sharpton to be attractive like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I tell you what, you know, it was an interesting week. You know, any time the Supreme Court gets off their ass and hands down decisions, you almost got to cringe because number one, I would say that the tide of the court has changed. It used to be a pretty reliable conservative court. Now it seems to be more of a progressive court, and it's funny. The third choice of Ronald Reagan behind Robert Bork was Anthony Kennedy, and Anthony Kennedy turned out to be a road apple if you've been a court watcher. And he's actually been one of the largest proponents of the recent decision on you know, marriage equality. But there was actually some other interesting decisions that came down too. So you know, it's one of those things that where if you got time during the day and you can actually watch C-SPAN or you get, you know, the actual news channels that report on anything other than what's in social media, you can see that
there are no news channels like that. I mean, truly, what news channels would you say that actually report on things like that? Because there's none.
well, you
All they're
actually, like I
reporting
said,
on
you're going to have to go
is
outside of the U.S. and you would have to go to the BBC World Service. BBC World Service does do that, and like I said, if you're only getting your news from a three-letter agency in the United States, you're doing yourself a disservice.
you're watching garbage.
Yeah,
If you read Time magazine, Time magazine is like People magazine for boring.
yeah.
You know,
You'd almost get
it's
more
garbage.
information out of the TV Guide if anybody still uses TV Guide, anyways.
I don't think they have TV Guide anymore.
God, have I been out of the country that long?
You know what, to be honest with you, I don't think I've seen a TV Guide in the grocery store. That'd be an interesting thing to find out later
Yeah,
on.
I think next time I go to a grocery store, I'm gonna have to look. How long ago was that?
It's been a while, I think. Yeah. Well, you know, it's just another American industry downhill. We used to lead the world in printing what was on TV for the evening,
Oh,
and now we probably outsourced that shit to China or India or something like that.
Jesus, TV Guides matter.
Yeah, I'm I'm tired of being told what matters.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I think I already know. And
Yeah.
you know what matters? UCY.tv. Nick, thanks a lot for being here tonight. Everybody, thanks a lot for listening. Lots of great programming. Stick around. Jules, thanks a lot for the platform. UCY.tv. Giving you what you need, when you need it, how you need it.